In ancient China, over 2,500 years ago, there lived a man who became a legend by choosing to disappear. His name was Lao Tzu, which means simply Old Master. He was a keeper of archives, a quiet librarian in the imperial court, the man who watched history unfold from the shadows, while others fought for power and glory. For decades, he said nothing. He wrote nothing. He taught no one. And then, one day, he decided to leave civilization forever. As he departed, riding a water buffalo toward the western mountains, the gatekeeper stopped him and made one request. "Please, Master, do not leave without sharing your wisdom." And so, in that moment, at the border between the known and the unknown, Lao Tzu wrote down 5,000 Chinese characters that would become one of the most influential books in human history. The Tao Te Ching, the Book of the Way and its power. Tonight, we follow the Old Master on his final journey and discover the wisdom he left behind. Let your breathing soften. Let the day dissolve. Let us walk with Lao Tzu toward the mountains. Very little is known for certain about Lao Tzu's life. Even his existence is debated by historians. But the legend tells us this. He was born in the state of Chu, in a village called Kuren. Some say he was born old, with white hair and a long beard, already the Old Master at birth. Others say he lived for 200 years or longer. These details don't matter. What matters is what he became. Lao Tzu served as the keeper of the archives in the Zhou Dynasty Imperial Library at Luoyang. Imagine him, an old man surrounded by scrolls and records, the accumulated wisdom of centuries at his fingertips. He read everything: the histories, the philosophies, the strategies of kings, the rise and fall of dynasties. He watched rulers come and go, each one convinced they knew the way to bring order to the world. He saw their ambition, their cleverness, their complicated laws and rigid doctrines, their wars and conquests and grand plans. And he saw how all of it led to more suffering, more chaos, more confusion. The more society tried to control everything, the more out of control it became. The more rules they made, the more rebellions arose. The more they grasped for power, the more it slipped through their fingers. Lao Tzu understood something profound. The way forward was not more effort, more control, more complexity. It was the opposite. There was a natural way, the Tao, that flowed like water, effortless and unstoppable. But humanity had forgotten it, lost in their own cleverness. One day, looking at the crumbling dynasty around him, Lao Tzu made a decision. There was nothing more to learn here, nothing more to witness. The cycle would continue. Ambition, control, collapse, repeat. He had seen enough. It was time to leave. Lao Tzu owned almost nothing: a simple robe, a walking stick, and a water buffalo, a slow, gentle creature, perfect for a man in no hurry. He climbed onto the buffalo's back and began his journey westward, toward the mountain passes that led beyond China's borders, into the wild and unknown lands. The legend says he was heading toward the mythical Western paradise, or perhaps to the mountains where immortals lived. But really, He was simply leaving, returning to nature, disappearing from the world of men. Along the dusty roads, past villages and rice fields, the old man rode in silence. People who saw him pass must have wondered, who is this strange sage? Where is he going? But Lao Tzu spoke to no one. He had nothing to say. Words, he believed, were often traps. The moment you name something, you limit it. The moment you explain it, you distort it. The Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. So he remained silent, and the buffalo walked on. Finally, after days of travel, he reached Hangu Pass, the western gate, the final checkpoint before leaving civilization forever. And there, the gatekeeper, Yin Shi, was waiting. Yin Shi was not an ordinary guard. He was a scholar himself, a student of the mysteries, and he recognized Lao Tzu immediately, not by his appearance, but by his presence, the quantity of stillness that surrounded him, the depth in his eyes. As Lao Tzu approached the gate, Yin Shi stepped forward and bowed deeply. "Master," he said, "I know who you are. I know you have spent a lifetime accumulating wisdom. Please, I beg you, do not leave without writing it down. Do not let your understanding disappear with you into the mountains." Lao Tzu looked at the young gatekeeper. He could have refused. He could have said, "The Tao cannot be written and written on." But something in Yin Shi's sincerity touched him. Perhaps he saw that the world, despite all its folly, still contained sincere seekers. Perhaps he felt compassion for those who would come after, still lost in the maze of their own making. Or perhaps he simply recognized that this moment, right here, at the threshold between worlds, was the right time. "Very well," he said. For 3 days, Lao Tzu stayed at the gate. He sat in a simple room with brush and bamboo strips, and he wrote 5,000 characters, 81 short chapters, poetry disguised as philosophy, paradoxes wrapped in simplicity. He wrote about the Tao, the way, the nameless, formless source of everything, the pattern that underlies all existence, the flow that runs through water and wind, through seasons and stars, through birth and death. He wrote, "The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The nameless is the beginning of heaven and earth. The named is the mother of 10,000 things." He wrote about Wu Wei, effortless action, non-forcing, working with the grain of reality rather than against it. The supreme good is like water, which nourishes all things without trying to. It is content with the low places that people disdain. Thus, it is like the Tao. He wrote about the danger of cleverness and the wisdom of simplicity. When people see some things as beautiful, other things become ugly. When people see some things as good, other things become bad. He wrote about leadership and governance, how the best ruler is barely noticed. The best leaders are those the people hardly know exist. The next best is a leader who is loved and praised. Next comes one who is feared. The worst is one who is despised. He wrote about strength in softness, power in yielding, Nothing in the world is as soft and yielding as water, yet for dissolving the hard and inflexible, nothing can surpass it. Chapter after chapter, he poured out the essence of what he had learned, not through study, but through observation, through silence, through watching the way nature works, the way rivers flow, the way trees bend in wind but don't break. Everything he wrote pointed to the same truth. Stop trying so hard. Stop forcing. Stop complicating. Return to simplicity. Return to naturalness. Return to the Tao. When he finished, he handed the bamboo strips to Yin Shi. "Here," he said, "this is all I have to say." Yin Shi accepted the manuscript with trembling hands. He knew he was holding something precious, something that would outlive kingdoms. "Master," he asked, "what should I do with this?" Lao Tzu smiled. "That is not my concern. I have written what needed to be written. What happens to it now is the Tao's business, not mine." "Will you not stay and teach?" Yin Shi asked. "Will you not gather students and explain these words?" "If they need explaining, then they are already misunderstood," Lao Tzu replied. "The Tao cannot be taught, only discovered. Each person must find their own way." He climbed back onto his buffalo. "But Master, where will you go?" Lao Tzu looked toward the mountains, wild, vast, empty. "Where I am going, there are no names, no words, no need for books. I return to the source." And with that, he rode through the gate and disappeared into the western mountains. The legend says he lived for many more years in those mountains, or that he became immortal, or that he was never seen again. Some say he traveled all the way to India and became the Buddha's teacher. Others say he simply dissolved into the Tao itself, like a raindrop returning to the ocean. But this much is certain. The man disappeared, but the book remained. The Tao Te Ching spread across China. It became one of the foundational texts of Taoism. It influenced Chinese culture, art, medicine, martial arts, poetry, and philosophy for thousands of years. It was translated into more languages than any book except the Bible. It found its way to the West, where it influenced everyone from philosophers to physicists, from poets to psychologists. And still today, people open its pages and find wisdom that feels both ancient and urgently relevant. Because the Tao has not changed, human nature has not changed. We are still complicating what is simple, forcing what should flow, grasping what can only be received. And the old master's words still whisper from beyond the gate. In the pursuit of knowledge, every day something is added. In the practice of the Tao, every day something is dropped. Less and less do you need to force things, until finally you arrive at non-action. When nothing is done, nothing is left undone. As you prepare for sleep tonight, imagine yourself at that gate. Imagine the old master on his buffalo about to disappear into the mountains. And imagine he turns to you and offers you the same gift he offered Yin Shi. Not a book of answers, but an invitation to discover the way for yourself. What would it mean to live in harmony with the Tao? To stop forcing and start flowing. To let go of cleverness and embrace simplicity. to trust that doing less might accomplish more, to be like water, soft, yielding, yet ultimately unstoppable. You don't need to answer these questions tonight. Just let them rest in your mind as you drift towards sleep. The Tao cannot be grasped, only lived. The way cannot be spoken, only walked. And the old master, though he disappeared 2,500 years ago, is still here, in the wind, in the water, in the silence between your thoughts. The Tao is near, and people seek it far away. It was never anywhere but here. May you find it. May you flow with it. May you rest in it.